Hello and welcome to a special McMuscles Midnight Massacre.
Very special.
A couple of you in comments were like, you really need to review this, and we're like, maybe we will, depending on how we feel.
Yeah, I was more feeling like it's not a movie, so I don't know, should it be included? But, I mean, it doesn't say McMuscles Movie Midnight Massacre.
That's true.
So we're not violating the terms of service.
It's our rules.
Do what I want!
Do what we want,
so we included it.
Yeah, so The
We just
Haunting
finished it.
of Hill House is a Netflix series. Not a movie. It's a 10-episode series that, like, very
Anticipated.
quickly I started hearing a lot about, much noise made of Haunting of Hill House, and I'm like, okay, what is this? Like, maybe a month ago I even knew that this existed.
Okay.
And I just saw the words Carla Gugino, and I'm like,
Sold.
I'm in.
100%.
I'm very, very in. This is, like I said, a Netflix television series. So, yeah, it is a bit different. Requires a little bit more time of anyone's parts. And commitment, yes, because that's the word I was looking for. And it's based on a book. I have never heard of this book.
Okay, well, it's not a new concept, the Hill House. There's been Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah.
Like, the Hills.
The House on Haunted Hill.
I don't know. But there's also...
It's just a name I've heard several times.
Yeah, like Hill House, Haunted Hill House, whatever. There's other movies about it. There's other stories being told about the family that lives there.
This house on a hill.
Like a reimagining of like the ancient part of it, but like also the new, like these people chose to live in this house
It's their
for
fault.
their reasons, and then what happens to them, and then the aftermath, which is something that is more new of a concept that you don't really see, which was what made this interesting.
It's like not about the haunting per se. It's more like how you deal with it when you're older, and like the trauma that it brings. So if you're looking for something where it's like people go into the house and scary things happen, and then there's some type of resolution, it's not that at all. And that's what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I was very pleasantly surprised with how this series is constructed, where we're always bouncing around between two different time periods. Where this is the Crane family, and there's a husband, a wife, and 5 kids. Which in the first episode you're like, whoa.
Yeah, because you're going back and forth. So it's these 5 kids in '92. And we'll talk about that too, because they made the clothes very like could be any time period, but
yeah.
And the flashbacks of them 20 years later. So there's 10
flash forwards.
And so there's 10 actors, right? Because there's 5 and 5. 5 when they're young, 5 when they're older. And all of the girls are like brunettes. Because there's only Luke who's like the blonde, right, kid. And it's like, who the fuck are you? What am I watching? What's going on? But you need to just give it an episode or two, and then you'll know, like, oh, that's this person, that's that person. And it's very obvious later on. Like, how was I ever confused?
Yeah. It's not like The Dark on Netflix where I'm like, Magnus? No, absolutely not. I don't know any of you people. I will never understand. And that had a similar concept where you're bouncing around between a bunch of different time periods.
But
yeah.
So you follow the story of this man, his wife, his 5 kids. They decide they're gonna buy Hill House.
Flip
it. They'll flip the house because that's what they've done
in
before.
3 months, no problem.
Yeah, they're gonna take one summer there. It's gonna be done, and
we're gonna be millionaires when we're done too.
So we're just gonna have our kids live in this creep house with our groundskeeper Willie. This couple who like has a cottage in the edge of the property, who used to take care of the old people that died there, who like, we'll hang out, we'll help you, but after dark we out. Like we don't stay here.
We're in bed when you're having dinner.
Like, okay, they're just like quirky whatevs. But then you see, in flashbacks and flash forwards, everyone's individual experience with the house.
It's weird because the show kind of it's very based on any given episode. You might start in the past or you might start in the future. And while that sounds like confusing, like ooh, I like that. Like how am I supposed to keep track of that? It was done in such a way like it's a huge puzzle the way that this show is put up. They'll show scenes with no context and they just happen. You're like, okay.
And then 2 episodes later, you get the full context of that scene.
Where you see
from another perspective.
Exactly, see from another perspective. And you're like, wow, that's amazing. Like, I just get boggled thinking about how you edit this.
How you actually script it out and see it, Well, you have to have a vision. You have to have a vision. And
this is like, it was developed and all the episodes are directed by a Mike Flanagan, who any of them that knows horror movies might know that he made Oculus, Hush, and Before I Wake, I believe, that one with Thomas Jane. And we had a few problems with Hush. It got a little, it had a great concept, but the third act was kind of like ridiculous. But Before I Wake, Before They Wake, Before I Shall Wake, whatever it was called with Thomas Jane, that was surprisingly good, and Oculus was also really good.
Yeah, he put the Oculus mirror in one of the scenes.
For sure, was it? Okay, it was. Because weirdly, Oculus was almost a very similar concept where it bounces between two different time periods, and there's two siblings involved, and that's that movie. But he was responsible for bringing this out, but like again, it's based on a book I'm not familiar with, and it was just. I was staggered at the amount of things, new things that I hadn't seen in a horror movie before, or horror, production before, where I'm like, that's an interesting way to look at things, or, wow, I've never heard someone articulate themselves. Like, the conversation very early on where the oldest sibling, Stephen, is talking to someone that had, like, a ghostly experience, and he goes, she's like, have you ever seen anything that was supernatural? And he goes, I don't really like that term. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. He's like, no, it's fine. It's just that I don't think there's any really supernatural things. Medieval man or like cavemen, when they'd look up at the sky and they'd see an eclipse, they assumed it was an angry god looking down at them. So I prefer the term pre-natural. We don't know what it is yet, but we'll come to understand it, and then it'll just be natural.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've never heard that explained.
You were really taken aback by that. I remember you were like, that's so interesting. And I'm like, yeah. He develops these characters well,
really
in that
well.
They are what they are, and they're each kind of tagged with, so Stephen goes on to write a book about the experiences, but he's the one kid that didn't really get a lot of, each one has sort of a ghost haunting them particularly,
particular fear.
Or whatever. And he goes on to become a famous writer because this becomes his genre of writing, that he just finds haunted places and writes about them. But this is from his, they're famous because of what happens that one night, the last night in the house. All the shit goes down.
We will try to steer clear of some spoilers for this show.
We are. It's so new and we want you to watch it.
It's one of those Netflix things where it's like, every episode is like, holy shit, gotta watch the next one.
Yeah, but then we'll try and break down the kids also. There's these two twins, which again, it's so confusing, you only realize they're twins 2 episodes in. It's a boy and a girl, Luke and Nell, and she's haunted by one thing, and he has an imaginary friend by one thing, and then there's the next oldest, which is Theo, who's my favorite.
Yeah.
Who's the sensitive one. She sort of feels things,
She feels too much things.
Too much. And then...
Now I want to do Shirley.
You want to go for Shirley?
I hate Shirley so much. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it later. But Shirley is the kind of domineering, sister, the oldest sister of the group that is, as a kid, she's kind of whatever, and she just learns this particular lesson as a kid. But when she grows up, she basically admonishes all the other kids, all her other siblings, rather, and just says, you guys suck, you guys suck, you suck.
Yeah, my way or the highway type thing.
I'm the only one that's been really great, and everyone loves me.
She's very self-righteous.
I am so great.
She's on her high horse. She's definitely... But, she still loves her siblings, and she
does.
Well, she becomes a mortician because she has this, lesson with death early on while she's in the house, There's kittens involved, whatever. And then the oldest one was just Steve, which was the guy who becomes the famous writer, whatever. And all of their experiences shapes their lives, and they all have varying levels of PTSD. Some people don't handle it so well, like the twins, who were the youngest, and you're always you always hear how the younger you are, the more open your mind still is to ghosts and apparitions and seeing things. So obviously they get the worst end of the fucking stick, later on, it's hard for them to cope and stuff like that.
It actually goes up in levels, doesn't it? The oldest guy that has the least amount.
Exactly.
Then Shirley has a bit. And then Theo's
just off the fucking charts. Because she's just
But she can manage it, she doesn't see things, it's just she touches them. And then the other two kids just see shit all the time.
Yeah.
And they both have their vices and how they kind of deal with it. Or Luke does or whatever. And then we have the mom. The mom, who's Carla Gugino.
Yeah.
who is also sensitive.
Yeah, so she sees early on that when her daughter Theo's like that, and she's just such a good parent. Like all of the scenes with her, just trying to talk to them and explain things to them. She's just, you could tell, she's very nurturing, very loving mom. Even though for some it is like tut tut, you know, like ghosts aren't real. You didn't see that. It's a little spill. Like it's just a dream. You know what I mean?
The dad is a bit more like tut tut. Like
he's definitely the most.
You know.
They're there.
Big boys know the difference between what's real and what's not.
But they always do it in a loving manner. It's not even that dismissive. It's just like trying to comfort them the way they know how.
Plus the amount of horror movies that we've seen where there's a new family that has a fresh start. And moves into like it's the same thing all the time. But in most movies and stuff, they kind of are dismissive to their kids, and they're kind of like
they never believe until it's too late.
They never really lash out their kids except for like the most extreme circumstances, and even then they're just like they yell at them and they do whatever, and so that's kind of the basic setup is that they're all dealing with there's a death that occurs in the family, and that's kind of like this one breaking point that everything. That happens when they're all older, that splinters off all the various things, kind of kick off from that moment. Everyone tries to deal with that, and everyone has their own, like, things that they're dealing with. And you see, like, almost every character gets their own episode.
Sort of, more or less. It's like, it is that way.
Yeah.
Like, 3-4 episodes in, or 2 even, then it starts, like, because there's 5 of them, to show, plus the parents, all of what they see, because
their perspective,
because the last night in the house in the past shit goes down, but they all are never told by the dad what exactly happens.
The kids never get the full story.
They never get the full story, and they live their whole lives not knowing this, and it sort of tortures them to various degrees. Like they want answers or some of them don't or whatever, and he has his reasons for it also,
but we're not told what they are.
I mean,
until the end,
kind of, but he did the best he can. They end up growing up with an aunt that they always refer to, like after the incident, after they leave the house, and he keeps the house there. And again, he has reasons for it, like why doesn't he just sell it or burn it or whatever?
Yeah.
Why is it still standing there for all these years? And then that event happens, the other death in the family, and then it sends this domino
effects. Exactly. So I think that's all we should really say about this.
This is hard not to talk because there's so much stuff that I want to say.
But in terms of like technically, in terms of acting and stuff, what did you really like in this show? Like what stand out as like, oh, I really like that, or like in terms of like how it's made?
Definitely, and I'm gonna jack this from you because I know you're gonna say it. I love the transitions.
Damn it.
Yeah. Well, you love it too. You can explain it more. The transitions from every scene goes from. Like, if you're in the future and someone's opening a door, it transitions to the past with them going through that door, or stuff like that all the time. Like, they're so well done.
And it seems like a small thing, but a lot of it really flows from one scene to another. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they'll use, like, a little, like, nameplate in the bottom to say, Hill House, the past, or Hill House now, or whatever.
Like California, because some of them live on the East Coast, some of them live on the West Coast.
But they stopped doing that after a while, and they just use this really, like, simple but clever thing. Someone's knocking at a door, and then their hand will turn into, like, their little baby hand when they're a kid, or whatever, and it just flows nicely, and it just makes it not confusing. Maybe they did that on purpose, because they're like, oh, it will be confusing, but, yeah, that was really good. What else did you like?
I liked, it's going to be a silly thing, and again, it's, like, probably something you didn't notice, but I liked how they kept the clothing, like the stylizing of what they're wearing in the past that could be any century. Not century. They could have been in the 50s or 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s. They were in the 90s. They had the mom wear more like stuff that could be more of a 70s feel, but the dad was always wearing like jeans and a t-shirt.
That
and
could
it
be
really
anytime.
Didn't date it to the point where I was always like, what year is this again? Because the timeline of the future is like now-ish.
They have cell phones.
They're like, so their future, so then break it down 26 years before, that's the 90s, right? So
there's only one thing that dates a time period, and that's Stephen the oldest is playing a video game, looks like a Sega CD, I don't know.
Yeah.
And he's playing that for one scene, and it takes like 5 seconds. Then after that, it's like, because sometimes when it's like, we're going to be the 80s, it comes on a little strong.
But they did it in a really subtle way with the costuming, which I really did appreciate too. I also love Theo. She's my big favorite. She's beautiful. She looks kind of like Angelina Jolie.
She looks like Carla Gugino a little bit, I felt.
Who's, beautiful too. She was just like the older actress for her. She's like super hot. and I liked her character the most. And I liked her character even maybe more when she was a kid.
She's drunk all the time.
She's drunk all the time. But when she was a kid, she was like a badass. Like when the caretaker was like being mean to one of her siblings, she just like flat up stood up to her in such a badass way. She's like, fucking how about you like go over her arm, blah blah blah. Like I thought that was cool that she was kind of a badass like that. And I liked, how they played with time as a concept also, timeline, stuff like that, because yes, you're going back and forth, but how they view time as a concept, like even in the house. I don't want to say too much either with that, but you know, confetti is all I'm gonna say.
Is there anything you didn't like?
Shirley. I didn't like how mean everyone was to Luke.
Yeah.
I also really loved the actress who played the young girl, the twin, Nell, because her face, when you think about it, she has this beautiful face when she's being stoic or whatever, but when she was terrified, because she has night terrors later on, and like even later, like she's just, I don't know, I think she has this perfect scared face and scary face, I don't know, I think it works so well.
No, I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah.
But is that also it for things you didn't like, just Shirley?
I don't know, you'll probably say something, if I agree with you, I'll tell you. Because I don't know what I didn't like. I liked a lot of things about it, you know, so...
Well, one thing that I can certainly say that I really, really enjoyed was that this is a 10-episode series, and there's been so many Netflix shows where I'm just, after a certain point, they just don't know what to do anymore. Either because the amount of episodes that they have, like Marvel Netflix shows, where there's just episodes of nothing happened. And I don't care. Just filler stuff. Even if they're not filler, it's just not. But this was like every episode was incredibly important. There was never an episode where I felt like bored or like, whatever. Let's just go on to the next one and just see what happens. Like I was never like, I always wanted to see what happened. And that's just the thing about how it was constructed, how it was written, how it was paced out. And that's like means a lot to me for Netflix shows or just TV shows in general, because I'm not sure if there'll be a second season. If there would be, I don't think it would involve this family. It might involve another family.
It seems like limited series type thing, which is what they're doing now. They're just saying like, this is it. Like we're doing this and that's it.
So I really enjoyed that. We didn't really talk about the ghosts per se. There's multiple different ghosts that are haunting various members of the family. And not all of them are like amazing, but some of them I'm like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like the way that they go about. And there's like, in 10 episodes, I think I counted really 2 what I would describe as jump scares.
Okay.
And one of them was like, I can understand why that would happen because of the situation it was in. And the other one was straight up like, it was just scary to be scared.
Yeah, there was some scares, but they weren't jump scares, if that makes sense.
A lot of them was just dread.
Scares.
A lot of them was just dread and like, I feel uncomfortable. I think we both said the hair on our arms is standing up in
at
one particular
point.
moment.
We were like, whoa.
So I think all that stuff was pretty inventive and like, I never quite saw a ghost like that, and that stuff was really, really fun just to see where it goes. But that's not the show's focus. It was more like the family and their issues together.
Yeah.
But the ghosts were there. One thing I really hate about Crimson Peak, I'm not sure, I don't think you actually sat down and watched that.
No, I have. We watched it in the theater together.
Oh, God. Is that movie was a slow, boring, predictable love murder story, and it had 2 ghosts that were hanging out for a bit. And then they just kind of leave.
At Crimson Peak?
Yes.
Well, okay. Predictable, like super predictable. And
the ghosts were window dressing on a drama.
In this, there are certain ghosts that you only see for 1 second in one episode, and they're blurry in the background, like because there are a lot of them, and they're not focused at all upon.
But there's certain boss ghosts.
Yeah, they're the big ones.
Show up.
You know, and talking about predictability. So I don't know if you guys know, but like I am the worst at like trying to guess things and being like, oh, I called it. And I did that a lot for this. And I did call a lot of shit.
You did.
But they were not easy to see. They were not like we're saying Crimson Peak, like, oh my God, more obvious. And every time I'm like, this is this person, this is happening, this is because of this. You're like, no.
But
then I'm like, yes.
But it was also in a good way where like these predictions were good predictions that I'm like, I'm glad it turned out like
that way.
this.
Like, I'm glad you were right.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, that's this person, that's that. That's,
you weren't even doing it in like,
this is an annoying way.
You were just like,
because
hope that's what's gonna happen.
Sometimes when there's too much of that, like, yeah, kind of like my dad who gets super annoyed when things are like, oh, predictable, the worst. I saw that coming. I saw this coming, and I'm like, sometimes when you see things coming too much, like, yeah, then what's there to enjoy? But these are like, oh yeah, shit. That's that. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That's so good.
Exactly like that.
Like, it wasn't like, oh god, twist, but whatever.
So just generally, like, the show was just like, you know, really well made and well shot, all the fun transitions and stuff, like we said. In terms of stuff I didn't like, it's like, yes, Shirley is one of the most annoying characters I've ever seen. Now I get it's like there has to be one person in like a group that's this large, like a family of 7, that there should be someone that acts like this, because there usually is in every family that's like kind of big.
Like the annoying one.
The annoying one that's like, oh, I'm so self-righteous, I'm better than everyone. And I'm so glad that, I won't say what it does, but the house finds what her weakness is, and it's just like, yeah, what about you when you did that? And she's like, oh no. So I'm glad she got hers in a way, but at the same time, it's like I actually just hated this character so much that I wanted you to like get off the screen. Because sometimes there's characters you love to hate, but I'm like, this wasn't that. I'm like, you are so annoying. And I liked every other character. I like Steven's kind of like, some things.
He's also a little bit self-righteous and annoying.
He is.
Because they're the oldest ones. Anyways.
But I love Luke a lot.
Yeah, Luke's your big favorite.
I like Theo a lot, and I like Nell too. Nell's little story is probably one of the strongest bits of what she's being haunted by.
Yeah.
That's
called it.
Yeah, you called that one, but it was really, really good. And but Shirley's like
she's sad too, like her story with everything. It's like really, you know.
And I'm sad that like Shirley's like story is not as sad, but whatever. And the other thing I wasn't like.
You think the young Shirley was annoying too, eh? The young actress who played Shirley.
She was a little bit, not as annoying as old Shirley, but. And the last kind of thing I was just like not as hot on is that the last episode was just a little simple for me. Like, the show is complicated in a good way, but the last episode is just kind of like, they kind of just, there's an ending and no one really had to do all that much, and it was just a little simple for me.
It wasn't a big, giant fight to the death fight scene. It was like, yes, an agreement was come to, sort of, like a sacrifice was made, and I mean,
like, that's it. There's such a good lead up.
It fizzled. It wasn't a bang of an ending. It was more of a little fizzle of an ending, but not necessarily bad.
Which I don't mind. It was just like a little slow and just kind of people just wander around. There was not a big sense of urgency. There was for a little bit, but then it just kind of slows down. Everyone's just kind of talking and whatever, and it was just like I kind of wanted a bit more of a bang.
I think they focused a little bit more on some reveals of when they were kids and like the room.
Yeah.
Sort of, we could just say that, you know, there's this red door room that's like this whole thing, the whole time they're there, they can't get in there, you know? And
that obviously, well, anyone that sees the first episode, I think it's shown in the first episode.
That they're just always trying to get in this
that you're going to know that that's going to be a big plot.
The focus of it. And it sort of reveals everything about that. So I think that's more what they focused on than like a big...
And I didn't even mean it in a negative way. I mean, just I would have preferred like something like that. Like what they did have for the last episode was still good. It was still, you know, I still enjoyed it. It was still satisfying. It was just like, I kind of wanted something a bit more like going on. But whatever.
But it was satisfying to the point where, again, there's this like few hours of the last night that they spent there when they were kids that has never been revealed to them fully. Even.
Yeah.
So... you know, finally they leave it to the end of the last episode of the series to finally be like, well, this is what happened. Mm-hmm. You know, so...
but yeah, no, I think I think we talked around everything that's actually, you know, pertinent to the story itself. I hope all of you that are interested in horror movies and horror, like, shows like this, would check this out. I highly recommend it. I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah, we couldn't, like, I couldn't watch all of it fast enough. Tell you that. Like, you get really addicted.
We wanted to finish it all in, like, basically one day, but then we just started falling asleep during the last episode. It was like 2 a.m.
We had to be alive. Like, we had to live lives.
But yeah, Haunting of Hill House, highly recommended. If they do like future seasons or whatever, I mean, I think it would be fine as is. But if you're gonna bring in another family, let's say, maybe, I don't know, but I think you should just leave it alone.
Have to be people before.
I could see that too.
The original old people that died in there, like the Hills or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, do check it out. It's like, again, it's a Netflix original, so it's if you have a Netflix account, there's no real reason not to. And a nice 10 episodes, not like 18. Like we still haven't finished for the room
for Twin Peaks.
For Twin Peaks season 3. Like,
and I'm like the hugest Twin Peaks fan, and we got over the hump. That one episode, y'all know what we're talking about.
Yeah, but then it doesn't get any better.
The thing is that if you stop for too long, because we've stopped to watch all these movies for this, for the Massacre, we're gonna jump back in and still be like, fucking Dougie's still alive. He still doesn't know that he's Cooper. Jesus, Lord give me strength. But okay.
Anyway,
how did we start talking about Twin Peaks?
Because 10 episodes. Yeah. Brevity is the soul of wit.
Okay.
Which means don't waste my fucking time. Anyway, so Haunting of Hill House, go see it, and I hope you enjoyed this episode, this very different episode of the McMuscles Midnight Massacre. And we will see you again tomorrow with another chilling bone tale. That's bad. Amazing. Another bone chilling tale. We'll see you guys next time.